Hey everybody, Randy here from the LoneHammer podcast with a kind of a daily episode or a weekly episode. Today's topic is going to be the U.S. Masters. So for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, this video will be all about me talking about the Masters and how I think I can fix it. I think I can fix the Masters in 20 minutes or less. So why is this video being made? It's being made because there's been a lot of concern over the Masters recently in the last couple of days. Those of you that follow Wargamers USA or follow Twitter will see some things about the mountain region and some stuff concerning what's going on there. I'm not going to jump down it too hardcore other than to say I don't agree with it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you like the Cliff Note version. So I'm going to try to be detailed, but not overly because it could take forever. But I will say that they had a residency rule in place, and 3 or 4 days ago, they changed it to allow out-of-residents into their Masters team. That's well and fine. Unfortunately, they disallowed somebody to go compete for their Masters team earlier in the year because they weren't a resident, so they took them off of their team. So that is a course of drama or a concern with a lot of people, whether it's serious, upsetting people, or whether or not it's more trolling. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of hit on some of the things that people have been saying, and I'm gonna try to fix the Masters, and I'm gonna tell you where I got my inspiration from in just a bit. But so for the Masters, David Witek from GarageHammer sent out a tweet yesterday when things were kind of going pretty negative on Twitter, basically saying that if it's not a bad thing, if you don't like it, just walk away from the Masters. And for the most part, I agree with that. It's like a consumer thing. I don't like your product. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just not going to purchase it. It'll go away on its own. And I think it was one of the Canhammer guys. He posted, when people were piling up on Jerry about some of his stuff, they kind of said something like, that wouldn't fly in Canada, blah, 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 something to that effect. And I don't mean to say blah, blah, blah like I'm being a douche about it. I just don't remember the whole quote, and I don't want to sound like I'm quoting somebody if I can't get it accurate. And I agree with that. So with this being said, I think that the committee chairs do an excellent job. I think Jerry has done a phenomenal job, not to toot his, make his ego any bigger. But I think he does a fantastic job. I think he does a fantastic job. I think that all the committee chairs do a fantastic job. These guys don't get paid for anything they're doing, and they're trying to put on a big tournament to figure out the best player in Warhammer, which I will define later. They don't deserve the crap that they get all the time. Some of it, you put yourself in the position, you're going to get criticism. But it needs to be a constructive criticism, and people need to discuss it on how to make things better. And it's too late to make this year's Masters better. It is what it is, and they're going to go forward. And I hope they have an excellent event, and I hope the guys that go have a great time. I hope they drink them out of kegs again this year. But things do kind of need to be fixed, in my opinion. And that's my opinion, and everybody's entitled to one. I am not going to sit here and bash any of the guys that put in their free time into organizing an event for everybody else to go. That drives me nuts more than anything that anybody will ever know. If you want to tell somebody that's running a tournament, hey, I think this would be so awesome, and give it to them in a constructive, positive way, cool. To bash their event, you're a tool. And this coming from a guy who I just ran a one-day tournament, and I was so drained after a one-day, I can't even imagine what a two-day would be like. And I just put on like a fun doubles tournament. I can't imagine what a 2-day, 80-person tournament would be like to run. I don't even know if I want to know now. I was so drained after it and answering some of seriously, the most ridiculous questions sometimes that I would get. And that'll be a show for a different day, a different time. But for this, I'm going to try to stay on point. So my concern with the Masters is twofold, threefold, fourfold. It's a lot of folds. One, I think that if we are to keep a regional way that we select the Masters, that once, and February is the Masters, I think that the start of the new year in January that the chair should have because the January starts all the new qualifications for the Masters. I think going into January, before the first tournament of your region, you need to have the rules in place for what is going to be your selection process, and that needs to go from January to December. No changes. This is what it is. Yes, you should have an asterisk for, in case of emergency. I know that the Midwest had some problem with a lot of guys declining, and Nickel stepped up and was like, this is what we're going to do, executive decision. I got no problem with that. If you have like 10, 12 guys go, I can't go, can't go, can't. You know what? Somebody's got to make a decision and pick somebody and go. You don't have all year to freaking keep sending out an email. Dude's got a job. People have wives. People have kids. This is a game. Relax. But there needs to be, a set of rules that need to be followed, and you can't arbitrarily change them to fit whatever. People should have some say into what happened in the mountain region. I think that there should have been something there, like the third and fourth place guy that were region should have got a invite before two out of region guys if you're doing a residency rule. So I digress. What is a master? There was a post on Wargamers where somebody basically said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to pull up their quote. If you want to read it, you're more than welcome to go to Wargamers USA and click on the threads and read it, join the discussion, and join the debates. I would ask that if you're going to join it, do it in a positive, constructive criticism, not being negative and pooing all over somebody's hard work. They basically said two comments. I'm going to address each one of them separately. But the first comment was the Masters is, to get guys from different regions together that normally wouldn't. I love that idea, by the way. Tournaments that do that. I love it, love it, love it. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it until I went to Rock Wars and Haynes tournament, and it was a fantastic tournament and an epic event. And I suggest if you want to travel to an out-of-region event, that's one that you should hit up. It was a fun tournament. I met a ton of guys that I probably never would meet in life from the Midwest, and I'm not quite sure where some of the Ohio Hammer guys are from, if they're Mid-Atlantic. I met Rob Fanoof from Ohio Hammer, great guy at his gaming club. All great dudes. Meeting them made me want to go out of region to travel, to hang out with them some more, to play their Warhammer. They talked about it, and this is what we do, and I'm like, I want to play that Warhammer. I'm going to Wapaka in January. Wapaka, to me, and my friends down here, sounds like an epic tournament. That's a tournament to me that promotes across the country participation. So a big shout out, not that they need it anymore, because everybody listens to their podcast and they're much bigger than we ever could imagine to be. But the Point Hammer guys, Bear, Raj, Johnny, what an idea. You guys, what an idea. To Hobby Hero or Real Deal, how do you want to play the tournament? If you're Hobby Hero, you'll play Hobby Hero guys, and you can't win the tournament, but, your army's on display. That's what you're here for. Heck, there are guys across the country that are going to go do Hobby Hero. There are a bunch of dudes that want to go up to the Midwest, to go to freezing cold Wapaka, Wisconsin, to be a real deal and play on awesome terrain, run by a really good group of guys, to play with a bunch of really good guys, to beat the bejesus out of them in toy soldiers, and drink a ton of beer. Those are the tournaments that are going to get people passionate to travel to. Who the hell would go to Wapaka, Wisconsin for a Warhammer tournament if it wasn't an awesome thing? Guys from California, Texas, the East Coast. And you know what he did that was so smart? He said, you know what? We're capping how many people from the Midwest can come, and we're opening up slots for the rest of the country. Come see what we got. That is brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. And I know the Midwest guys are like, this is crap. I've been going to Wapaka for years, and I couldn't get a slot because it sold out so fast. That's a good thing for Warhammer if tournaments are selling out in an hour. That's a good thing if there's a wait list. That means your event is successful. That means guys want to come. And think about this. If every region had a tournament like Wapaka, you would get guys that would come from across the country to go to your event. Guys from the West Coast would travel to the East Coast. Why? Because it's an awesome idea that could be duplicated, and dudes would show up for it. That is awesome. To have two categories, Hobby Hero or Real Deal. That is, I can't even express to you the genius I think in that. So I don't think that the Masters should be about getting people to come from all over the place to do it. I just don't think it. Now, what do I think that the U.S. Master is? I think the U.S. Master should be the best general on the table. What does that mean? The guy with the most battle points. Should he have a painted army? Yes. Should his paint score count? No. Should his sports score count? No. Now, you're probably saying, that's retarded. Why would I ever paint an army? Blah, 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 blah. That doesn't mean that the tournament can't be run and can't be your overall tournament champion for whatever event, whatever region you're in, can't be paint, sports, battle, and whatever percentage you want to give it. That doesn't matter. That can be your overall winner. I'm good with that. It's your event. Run it how you want to run it. But to win the U.S. Masters, they're counting battle points. How's your battle? This is it. You win the tournament. Well, to get to the Masters, I think that it should count your battle. Who's the better general? You are. You should go to Masters for us. That's a great idea. And some of you are like, well, I mean, most people that win Best General finish really good overall. No, not necessarily. What if they don't have a good paint score? What if the tournament's a third paint, third sport, third battle? Well, I'm a great general. My sports are good, but I suck at painting. Well, there you go. You see my point? So he's not a master. He's not the best general, which is what Masters is. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't like it. I'm just going to say it. I don't like it. That's my personal opinion. I also think that, so for me to fix it, well, I'll fix the whole scenario at the end. I'm going to fix everything at the end. There's a couple of things that I'm not a fan of, and the next one is going to be the regions in themselves. The Masters now has 9 regions. Some of these regions are having trouble filling their own Masters spots with players for a couple of reasons. One is travel, which is always going to be a thing. You know, when you're talking about a guy going from Seattle to North Carolina to go to a Masters, I get it. At the end of the day, this is toy soldiers, and we have jobs and families and commitments, and sometimes you just can't take a weekend off in February, you know, fly in on a Thursday night or a Friday morning and fly out on a Sunday and hope to get back. It doesn't, logistically, doesn't work that well. So I get it. But I think that the idea of regions is for the best player. I mean, is the 10th best guy that qualified for, I don't know, the East Coast better than the 11th or 12th guy that qualified in the South? I don't know. I don't know who qualified where, so I'm not taking shots at anybody. I'm just using it as an example. I don't know. I have not a clue. But, I mean, I do know that in the South, we're picking the overall champions of events, not battle. I know that. So, are we sending guys that might not have great battle? I don't know. I'm not looking at the thing. I know that a lot of the guys do really well in battle in tournaments, and generally you're going to find the top guys overall are doing very well in battle. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me twisted on any of that. But with a region in the South, especially the South, and maybe I need to fix the South, but I'm going to say it for every region. Get away with it. Because if I live in Oklahoma and I want to play in Texas, or somebody like Skaven and AZ who loves the Texas scene, and this is where he wants to spend his money to play, he doesn't get a shot at the Masters because he plays it in Texas and he's not a resident here? Wow. I mean, wow. And he's a very competitive tournament player for anybody that's watched his channel. He loves tournaments, loves the competition. He loves it. You don't tell me that's not a guy that you want going to the U.S. Masters to represent any region, any place. He's not a player that you would want at your tournament. He's a fun game. He's got a great-looking army, but he can't make the Masters because where he likes to play his tournaments. I don't get it. I don't get it. And Texas and the South isn't the only region that has that residency rule. Is the response that at the start of the year, if you want to try to qualify Masters, you have to tell a region, like, I'm trying to qualify in your region, kind of like how the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic does, like, pick it. You know, you live close to the East Coast, you don't live here, but, hey, you're trying to qualify up here? Awesome. Is that a solution? To me, the solution is simple. There is no regions. It's the country. We want to find out who the best Warhammer player is out of 90 guys, 100 guys, however big you want to make the tournament. So we should have a national ranking. How do you get to the national ranking? Pick a number of tournaments you have to play a year. How about 3? Sounds like a good number. 3 tournaments is a pretty good gauge on how well you're going to do in a tournament scene, I think. What's the point total of these tournaments? I'd say between 2,000 and 3,000 points. Just for some variety. I think a master could come from any of those points. I think you have to have a painted army. To show up to Masters, it's got to be painted. All your armies on the table for the year of the tournament have to be painted. So the box, if you want to go out for Masters, should say, was your army painted? Yes. Painted by you? Who gives a rat's ass? It's a painted army. Was the guy a good sport? Because it is a hobby, after all, and we are trying to find the best player, and nobody wants to spend money to go to a tournament that's a bunch of D-bags, right? Because nobody will go. Sports. Was he a good sport? Yes or no? If you get completely tanked and have, I don't know, let's say 4 bad game votes over the course of 3 tournaments, then no, you don't deserve to be our master. As a matter of fact, you might not deserve to go to tournaments, period, because you wreck fun for everybody. But I think that would be a good start for what the Masters are. So as always, comment, questions, concerns, and stay tuned for the next LoneHammer podcast. I promise you Mark and Jeff will be giving their 5 cents. So anyway, I'm not sure if I missed anything this time. I doubt it. But we are definitely going to be hitting the Masters hard on the next LoneHammer podcast, and we have a couple special guests. So until next week, if in case it doesn't come out before Christmas, have a happy holidays, guys, and Merry Christmas. See y'all later.